Hey everyone, this is Professor E, and today we are going to go over chapter 4, which is about conditional statements, or you can call it decision making. Okay, so this is the thing we're going to go over. So basically, I'm going to go over the concept of conditional statements. I'm going to explain what you need to do for programming assignment 5 and 6, which you have right here. So I'm going to explain, even though there is already a video that explains that, but I'm going to go over it again. And then also we have project 1. So that has 2 parts. Also, I'm going to go over it, and you still have, you also have a video that talks about the expectation right here, project 1 explanation. So we have pretty much everything you need to make sure you know what the expectations are. Okay, and then keep in mind that we're going to have a midterm exam next week. So, and then there is also a review that kind of gives an idea about what type of question you should expect. So make sure, I think
it's the type of questions to expect,
yeah, it's multiple
not
choice.
the exact question.
Yeah, it's multiple. Well, very similar, very similar. If you look right here, this is the next week. Okay, can you see like there is midterm review? And by the way, it covers only chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. So chapter 5, which will be covered next week, is not included, will not be included in the midterm. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started.
Where is the midterm assignment thing? Because there's the chapter 5 quiz, but I don't see where
it's invisible. Can you see like here it shows invisible? I will make it visible next week. Can you see?
Okay.
So that's why you don't see it. You see everything, but this one you don't see it. I will make sure that probably by Monday morning it should be should have access to it.
So 1 through 4 is covered in the midterm.
Yeah, only 1, 2, 3, 4, which means up to the chapter we're gonna go over today. But the chapter 5, which is the chapter we're gonna go over next week, will not be a part of the exam.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch to Visual Studio. I'm assuming that you can see my page here. So it is about chapter 4. So what is chapter 4 about? Because so far, and I'm gonna go over kind of quick review what we covered so far in chapter 1, 2, and 3. So we learned how to declare variables, right? So we have different types. We have integer, we have double, we have string for text, we have char for characters, and we have Boolean, okay? So this is the data type. We learn how to print, how to prompt the user to enter the information using CIN. We learned how to use basic formatting. Now, and then also we learned about the math functions, the random number. So this is what we learned. But so far, we did not learn what about if a statement will be printed or a bunch of statements will be executed only if there is a condition. And if that condition is not true, then it's maybe either it's not going to print it, or it's not going to execute it, or it's going to print another block of statements. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say, for example, we have a cell, okay? Like maybe like a dealership, car dealership, and then we have some employees, and then of course most of them, and most of the time, they are paid based on commission. So if they sell more, they're gonna get more, basically. So let's say we have cells here, and then we're gonna prompt the user to enter the cell. Okay, the employee will tell us how much they sold for that particular period of time. Please enter the cells for this year, for example, or for this month, or for this week, whatever the situation might be. Okay, and then we're going to save it. So cells. Okay, now, so let's say, for example, the car dealership or the administration or the office, whoever is in charge, they said, okay, if you sell more than a certain amount, maybe $50,000, then you're gonna get a commission. Let's say 10%, 5%. If not, then maybe you're gonna just gets paid like a very base salary, like very minimum. Okay. So in this case, we're going to put an if statement. Can you see like IF? Then you put the condition here. Now, if sales is higher, let's say, than 50,000, then something will happen. We can say, for example, okay, your commission is, and then we're going to give them 5%, which is basically whatever the sales is, multiplied by 0.05 or 0 or 15%, whatever the situation might be. Okay. Now, what about if that number is less? So there is something called else, which is the opposite. That means less. We can include 50,000 here just to avoid any confusion. And then else, that means if that amount is less, then that means 49,999 and less, then maybe they can say, okay, your commission is, they're going to give them probably something to maybe only 2%. So we're going to put here 2%. Or maybe you can just put no commission for you, for example. I don't want to be rude, but okay, let's make it simple. No commission. Or you can put just sorry first. Sorry, no commission. Please try to work hard or something like that. Okay. So let's run the program and see. So first, the program will print this statement. Please enter the sales for this year. So, and then we're gonna, somebody will type, or the user will type a number, and it's going to be saved in this variable. And then we're gonna test that cell. So there's only two outcomes. Either it is higher or equal than 50,000, or it's less. That's the only two possible. So here we have only two outcomes. As you can see right here, please enter the cells. So let's choose something higher, maybe $62,000. So the program will test, is 62,000 higher or equal than 50,000? Yes. So the statement, the first one, will be executed and the else will be ignored. You will never have both of them executed. Here, your commission is 9,000, which is 15%, right? Now, what about if the number is less? So please enter the cells for this year. Let's say they tried very hard, but they got only 34,000. They're close, but not close enough. Now, sorry, no commission. Please try to work harder and sell more cars or stuff like that. So can you see this? Now, I want you to pay attention. There are many things, or there are many some problems that some people they have when dealing with if statement. The first one, if should be lowercase. So if you put uppercase, it's not gonna work. Okay, not recognized. And also make sure that whatever condition you have, it should be inside the parentheses. You cannot put it like this. Now, depending, of course, which language you are dealing with, but in Java, you have to have the parentheses. Why parentheses is important and required? Because it tells the program where does it start, where does it end. So I'm going to open the parentheses. That means I'm going to start. Sometimes you may have more than one condition. What about if I have another condition? Let's say, for example, okay, the sales are higher than 50,000, and let's say another condition, maybe attendance, maybe, or maybe I don't know. That's other than the sales, they have another criteria. It could be, for example, let's say there is a variable that keeps track of their attendance, like how often they come, maybe or absences, how many days are absence. Maybe like you can put absences. Of course, I don't have the variable. I'm just telling you that you can have more than one condition. So I'm going to put here less than 5 days. So assuming that you have a variable called attendance. Okay? Or absences. Absences. So you may have more than one, but for today, I'm just going to focus on one because we want to make sure that we understand how the if statement works before we can work with more than one condition. As you can see right here, if sales is higher than 50,000, okay. What about if I want to use another, and I'm going to add another statement. Let's say I'm going to put here, your commission is sell, okay. And then I want to add one more, congratulations, keep up the great work, okay, just to encourage them. Now, can you see like else is underlined? So what is the problem here? Looks like there is a problem. If you run it, you're going to get a problem. Can you see this? So there is a problem. What is the problem? When you have only one line, so it is not an issue. But once you have more than two lines under the if statement and also under the else, you have to use the braces. So I need to use the braces. That means I need to tell the program where does it start, the statement, and where do they end. Because if there is no braces, what happened is the program will assume only the first line is part of the if statement. So the second one, the one that says congratulations, is not part of the if statement. So this is very important. Now, if I run the program, you're going to see that, okay, 60,000. See, it's going to say both of them. Now, it says on the same line because I forgot to put and L. So I need to make sure that you have and L here. All right, so run the program. So we have 60,000, and then here we go. Your commission is 9,000. So make sure you remember when you have more than, no, my advice to you, my recommendation, is always make sure you use the braces after F and after L statements, even if you have only one line or one statement, okay? So make sure you use the braces regardless, okay? Avoid any unexpected problem. This, I'm talking about these braces right here, the curly brackets. So put those. Now, as can you say in else, it's not a problem because you have only one statement. But the problem, once I add another statement, so maybe I'm gonna say here, need to be more engaged with the customers. I just want to say something. Okay. So again, here, now you may think they are together, but because there is no braces, only the first one is part of the else. And I'm going to prove it to you. If I run the program, look, and then I put the sales is higher, I'm going to put 60,000, right? So I'm supposed to get only the first two statements. But look what happened. Your commission is 9,000. Congratulations, keep up the great work. And then look, you need to be more engaged. I'm not supposed to have that. But because I didn't put the braces, so the second statement, this one right here, is not part of the else. So basically the bottom line, the braces so you don't have to deal with this kind of issues. But braces here are required, especially when you have more than one statement. If you have only one, it's not a problem. It's not going to cause any issues. But once you have two or more, 3, 4, 5, it becomes mandatory to do that. Okay? So that's how the if statement works. As you can see here, if I put 34,000, so now we're going to get the other two statements. Sorry, no commission. Please try to work harder. You need to be more engaged with the customers and stuff like that. Okay? So this is only if we have two outcomes. Like, for example, let's say we don't have sales. We have grade. Okay? I'm going to delete this. So let's say, please enter the grade to show you that it works the same thing. Enter your grade, and I want to see if it is passing grade or not. So of course I'm going to enter grade, and then I'm going to tell the program if the grade is higher than what? 70 or equal, then I'm going to say, oh, congratulations, for example, you passed. Okay, of course I don't need this. And I'm going to congratulations. I'm going to keep that one. Keep up the great work. Else, sorry, I don't have to put commission, but probably the statement will say, please try to work harder. You need to be, or you need to come to tutorials, for example. Come to tutorials. Okay, so as you can see, it's very similar. So I'm going to run the program and it's going to ask me for the grade. Okay, 95. You pass. Congratulations. I forgot the end. Congratulations. You pass. So congratulations. Now, what about if the grade is less than 70? Then you're going to see that it's going to say, sorry, please try to work harder. You need to come to tutorials. Okay. Now, my question, what about if, let's say, I have a student who got A and I want to reward them for working very, very hard. So maybe I want to have like a pizza party for them. So what I'm going to do is, first one, you need to make sure it's passing, because if you got A, that means you already passed, but you got even a higher grade. So I'm going to make sure that they get this statement, you pass, congratulations. And in here, can you see like inside? Then you put another F statement. That means besides passing, your grade is even higher. So you put if your grade is higher or equal than 90, then you're going to put, okay, I'm going to say, well, we will have a pizza party. Okay. Remember, I put that if statement inside why, because you have to pass first before I can check whether you have A or not. Okay. As you can see here, the people, only people who got A, they will see this statement. Everybody who passed, they will get this too. You passed, congratulations. But only people who got A, they will get an extra statement that says we will have. So let's test this and see. So we're going to see here, enter your grade. Okay, now what about if it's not higher than 984? So only the first two statements will be there. You pass, congratulations, keep up the great work. Now, what about if they pass and their grade is even higher, 98? Can you see like all the three? So they got the first two because they pass, and the third one because they got A. Now the same thing right here. This is for people who fail, they're gonna get this. Now, what about if I want to add another statement for people who did very, very bad? Like let's say they got less than 50. So there's a problem here. So I'm going to put a statement that says, I will refer you to student center or something like student center to get help, for example. Okay, I will refer you to the student center to get help. So as you can see here, this is only for people who failed, but not only failed, because if you fail, you're going to get these two statements. But if you did so bad, less than 50, then this extra statement will be shown, will be displayed. So, for example, if they got 35, of course, they're going to get all the three. The first two, sorry, please go try to work harder, and then you need to come to tutorials. And then the third one, I will refer you to the student center to get help, something like that. Can you see this is called a nested F statement? Nested. I'm going to put it right here. Nested F. So why they call it nested F? Because you have an F statement inside another one. Okay? It's inside. Nested F statement. Okay? So this is, an example of nested F statement. And question, I think programming assignment number 6, it has to do with this. Okay? So if you can, okay, let me switch just for a minute and then show you what programming assignment number 6. Okay, I need to go back to 3. Can you see programming assignment 6 is very similar here because you have two conditions. First one, you have to pick what package, because here there's an internet service provider has 3 different subscription packages. So which package you're going to choose? And based on that choice, then you will be charged for the internet service. If you choose package A, so here you have 3 outcomes, package A, B, and C. So this is an F statement, right? A, B. And inside A, you're going to check, if, because you need to have another variable for the number of hours they used. So if they use more than 10 hours, they will be charged, in addition to the flat rate of 9.95, an additional expenses, which is $2 per hour for the extra beyond 10 hours. So if they talked for 15, so for the first 10 hours, only 9.95. The difference, which is 15 minus 10, that's 5. Then they will be charged 2, which is 5 times 2, 10, and then you add it to 9.95. So that if statement about the hours will be inside package A. And the same thing for package B. Okay? So if they talk more than 20 hours, the extra, they will be charged, and now $1 for each additional hour. But for package C, you don't even have to ask them about the hours because it's unlimited. Okay? So this is an example how that you're going to be using the same thing as here. Okay? So in your case, like for example, let's say package. Okay? So package would be most likely is going to be either a character or string. It's up to you. So I can put, for example, here a package. I'm just going to show you like a string or character. You know, I'm going to call it pack. And then what else? You need hours. So this is only those two variables. So you need to enter package. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm just want to make sure that you know what how to deal with it, how to approach this problem. So we're going to put if pack. So we enter the pack. I'm sorry, here CIN pack. And then you can use an if statement. Look, if pack is A, if pack is A. Now, of course, if you choose char as data type, then you don't put the double quote, you put single quote. And then you're going to ask them, okay, if package is A, of course, you're going to ask them this question, please enter the package. If the package is A, then ask them about the hours, right? So you're going to ask them about, please enter the hours. And then you're going to put another if statement about the hours. See, right here. So you need the hours, you're going to put here, of course, after asking, okay? They're going to put enter the hours. And then you have to use CIN as well, CIN hours. And then here you're going to test the hours. If the hours is higher or equal than 10, then something would happen, which means the flat rate, and then calculate the difference, which is hours minus 10, multiply by 2 and add it to 9.95. This is only if it is, okay, if it is higher. Else means automatically it's not higher. So you can have only flat rate of, I think, probably 9 points. So your bill is 9, I think 0.9.95, something like that. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're not going to put else because we have more than 2. So you're going to put else if. That means what about if the package is B? So we're going to have an example about if, else, if. That is when you have more than 2. If you have only 2 outcomes, you put if, else. But if you have more than 1, so you have to put else, if, keep going depending how many choices you have. So this is if it's B, and then also here you're going to put the hours, right? And then you're going to put here else, if, another one, else, if the pack is what? Is C. And then you're going to do the same thing that you just did right here. See? Well, for C, you don't have to because you don't even have to ask about the hours. You're just going to tell them your bill is whatever, I think 19 or something like that. But for B, yes. So whatever you did here, this right here, you're going to copy it and put it in B, but you're going to change the number. It's not 10, it's 20. Okay? And then you're going to be charged only $1 for extra for any additional hours. So this is pretty much how the program in 6 will be done. Okay? Okay. So as I mentioned here, so we have different ways. We have the if else, and then we have else if, else if. Let me give you an example to show you how the else if works. So let's say, for example, we have a bunch of activities in in school, like in college. So let's say here we have either sophomore, depending on your student status. If you are a sophomore, you're going to be doing something. If you are a freshman, you're going to be doing something, senior and stuff like that. So I'm just going to put string also. And I'm going to put status or, yeah, student type, something like that. Can call it anything you. Or student level, yeah, grade level, something like that. Of course, you're going to prompt the user, enter your status or student level, or yeah, just status. That means, are you a freshman, sophomore? Okay, so we're gonna put here CIN, and then you're gonna put student level. Okay, and then you're gonna put F else, just like what we did the first one. So F student level is what? So depending, I'm using string because I'm going to put here a freshman. But if you have a number, you're going to put a number, okay? If student level is a freshman, do this. Maybe they have an activities to do. Maybe they have a guest speaker, or they have a field trip or something like that. Else F, and then you repeat that. Let's copy it to show you that it's pretty much the same thing. So if it is sophomore, they're going to have something else to do. Okay, and then I'm going to put this. Look, I'm using the braces because I don't want to deal with any issues here. Else F, and then again, if it is junior. And of course, you can put here anything. Okay, let's say out. You have a guest speaker in the, in the student center. In room, whatever you want to say. In room F1, something like that. Okay. What about sophomore? You have something else. It's like there are different options. And then you're going to put maybe you will have a college visits, something like that. As you can see, F system is very, very simple. So if you are a junior, you're going to do something else. So maybe you're going to be, you will have, or you will go to the testing center for whatever reason. Now I put, and then another one is if you are a senior. Say if you are a senior, maybe have graduation, rehearsal, something like that. So can you see there's no limit how many you can, depending how many choices you have. So you can have else F all the way to the end. And then you put here, you will have a graduation rehearsal or something like that. Now, as you can see, like it's better to end with else. What does else mean? That means if it's not the first one, second one, if they enter something other than these four options, then most likely it's going to be an error. So that's why I put else at the end. That means that's invalid. So it's good to have it at the end to make sure your program responds to all situations. Because if I stop at senior, I'm assuming they're going to enter the right thing. But what about if they enter something other? I mean, they got confused. They enter their name or they enter something else. You're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, it's invalid, try again, or something like that. So always make sure that the else is to make sure the program works properly, and then as like a validation tool, okay? So as you can see right here, very simple. So we can run it and see. Hopefully there is no error here. So we're going to put what is your status. So I'm going to put sophomore. Of course, it is case sensitive. So sophomore, okay, you will have a college visit, and then it stops. Can you see? It's not going to continue. Why? Because when you have F, else, F, only one, the program will start with the first one. Is it freshman? No. Then it's going to go to the second level. Is it sophomore? Yes. Automatically is going to execute this statement and exit. It's not going to go through junior or senior or the other. No. Why? Because it's one block. Only one of them will be true. So the first time the condition is true, the program will stop right there and exit the if statement, exit the entire block, and then continue with the rest of the program. Okay, it's very important to understand this. So this is if you have multiple. Now, I can have the same thing, but using something called switch statement. Look, the same program to show you that it is an alternative to if statement. So I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to use the same thing. So I'm going to put using switch. So, and then you put the variable that you are testing, which is student. Yeah. And then you're going to use, of course, you have to use students level string. Let me change it to character. Oh, for some reason it did not work with string. So I'm going to choose it as character. So, okay. So I'm going to put here, okay. Why didn't work with string? Let me see. So let's switch and say, oh, because I need to add another file for string. So I'm going to put include. I think that's what it is. And then include string, student level, local variable. So maybe it just does not accept string. So let me use, for example, for the switch statement, let me use another, let me use just int. And then I'm going to call it here. Let's say I'm trying to basically perform some operations like, addition. So I'm going to call it operation. Okay, my understanding is string is working, but for some reason it's not working here. So I'm going to put here, let's say I want to perform some operation like addition, subtraction. So I can use the switch statement for this. I'm going to put enter your operation. And then here I'm going to put 1 for addition. And then 2, because we need to explain what these numbers mean or stand for. Subtraction. And then 3 is multiplication. And 4 is division. This is just to help the user. Okay, so that's good. To help make sure that they know what these numbers mean. And then I'm going to use here enter CIN operation. So now I'm going to put switch. So switch operation, that means this variable will be tested. Case 1, that means that's the first case. What does case 1 mean? That means if the user enter 1 as operation, then you want them to do something. You can say the sum of, or first one, I need to ask them about the numbers that they want to add. So I'm going to ask. I may need to have 2 numbers, num1 and then num2. So I'm going to put here enter the first number. And then I will, of course, put CIN num1. And it's going to be the same thing for number 2. So I'm just going to copy this. And then enter the second number, num2. Then I can say, okay, cout the sum is, and then I'm going to add the num1 plus num2. So this is very similar to the if statement. If you just remove this and you put f, it's going to be the same. It's just like a different way. So case 1, do this. And then make sure after each case, because we want the program, once it performs case, it should exit. So there is something called the break, always after each case. So I'm done with case 1. That's how the program knows we are done with case 1 and we're going to start case 2. What does 2 means? Okay, if you look right here, it explains that 2 is subtraction. So I'm going to copy this. It's pretty much the same, right? So it's just going to say difference. So it's the same thing, and then I'm going to put here difference is, and then change plus to minus. That's how simple it is. And then again, continue. Case 3, what does 3 stand for? You go up, oh, that's multiplication. So I'm going to do the same thing. So enter the first number, and then I'm going to say products, and then put the multiplication. And make sure that there's an line here. Even though we're not going to have a problem, because once it's done with 1, it's going to exit. But I just want to make sure I do it for all of them. Okay, so with case 1, case 2, case 3, what is case 4? Case 4 is it's for division, but we have a problem here. Remember, division, you cannot divide by 0. So after I get the numbers, I'm going to ask a question, maybe like an F statement, because I cannot divide. Because once if the user enters 0 as the second number, then that's going to cause a problem. The program will not be executed. So I'm going to make sure that if num2 is equal to 0, say something. Maybe say out can divide by 0, for example. And then you put else. Else means if it is not 0, then I can divide. So I'm going to put the quotient is, and then you're going to divide. Okay. You may want to do double here, because we talked about this before, that if we have an integer over integer, we're going to get only the integer. There will be no decimal. So to avoid that, I'm just going to cast it to double. Okay, so we are done here. Now, what about if they enter something other than 1, 2, 3, 4? So the program will not respond. That's why we usually end with defaults. What does defaults mean? That means if they enter other than 1, 2, 3, 4, then the program should respond as the following. Maybe say invalid, just like what we did in statements. Invalid in 3. Please enter 1. Okay, so that's pretty much how to switch statements. Some people like this because it's kind of very straightforward, especially when you have choices like in project number 2, you're gonna have something similar to this, because they said, okay, depending on choices, let me switch to show you that you can, if you want to, you don't have to. So in project 2, can you select these 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4? So if the user enter 1, then ask him, what is your age? And then, of course, you're going to use the percentage for the models to display whether the year they were born. How are we going to find out the year they were born if based on their age? So you're going to subtract the age from this year, which is 2025, and then check if it is divisible by 2 using the remainder of the percentage. So that's case 1. Case 2, calculate the tax based on the user input. So you can ask him, okay, enter the price of the item, enter the tax rate, and then you're going to do the calculation. That's case 2, and always end with a break. Case number 3, just like what we did. Okay, enter the Celsius, temperature in Celsius. Okay, do the operation or the formula. And then remember here it's from Celsius to Fahrenheit, not the other way around. So make sure you use the right formula. And then you put break. And finally quit the program. You don't have to do anything. You just put, okay, thank you so much. Okay, that's the end of the program, but just a statement. Okay, so as you can see, so this is the part 2 of the project. So it's very, very simple. Okay, so that's how the switch goes. Again, so you put switch, and then inside the parentheses, you're going to put the variable that you want to test, the one that changes, the one that takes different values. which is in our case operation. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Is it sophomore, freshman, like what we did earlier? So it depending on as I said, like we had a problem with string. So you may want to use character if you want to, character or integer. Okay. I know in Java it works fine, but in C++ maybe that's not. I will double check on that. But definitely in Java it works as a string, as a character, as an integer. All right, so that's how the switch statement works. Okay. So now what we're gonna do for the last few minutes, we are going to learn about what about if you have values like between, because here it's exact, case 1, case 2. You are freshman, so it's like specific value, but sometimes we don't have specific, we have like a range between this and this. I'm gonna give an example here to show you that we have to use else if, but it's gonna be a little bit different. So let's use the same example that we started with, which is the cells, and they have different commission. So let's say we have cells amount, and then we have the commission. Okay, so we're gonna say here double commission. Okay, so we're gonna ask the user here, enter the cell. So we're gonna use just like a hypothetical situation. Let's say if they enter or if the cells is higher than 200,000, then they will get 15%. If it's between 150,000 and 200,000, then they get 10% and something like that. So we're going to come up with the table, and then for every range, for every bracket, then you get a certain commission rate. So enter the cells amount. So we are going to save this. So I'm going to put CIN cells amount. I'm going to put here what the table is going to look like. So I'm just going to put an example here. So let's say cells higher or equal than 200,000. Then I'm going to put you get 15% or 0.50. Okay. If the cells is less than 200,000 and higher than 150,000, then they will get probably say 10%, 0.1. Okay. Now, what about if the cells is less? Make sure that you cannot include the same number in two different brackets. So that's why I'm not using dollar equal sign here. So if it is less than 150,000 and higher than 90,000, then they will get 0.0. And then cells is here. I'm going to put the equal sign higher. And then let's say if it is less than 90,000 and higher or equal, then let's say $45,000, then they will get 0.05, and anything less than 45,000, so maybe they will get only 2%, something like that. 0. So we're going to use this table in our example. So I'm going to put here if cells amount is higher or equal than $200,000, I'm going to put C out. Your commission is, and then I'm going to get the cells amount and then multiply by 0.15. You see that? Okay, now I want you to pay attention. So here, if it is less than 2, so there are two conditions. That's why we have else, because else means it is less than $200,000. So I just need the other part, which is this guy right here. because I already have less than 200. That's what else means. So I'm going to put only the second part up to make sure. Yeah, I'm going to get this part right here. Okay. So if the cells, okay, I want you to pay attention here. I didn't repeat less than 200,000 because that's what else does. Else means the opposite of this. So else means less than 200,000. But if you put only else, if I don't put this part right here, what's going to happen? That's going to include everything else. I don't want that. I want to limit to that bracket. That's why I put else means less than 200,000, and then I added higher or equal. And then you're going to continue the same way. So I'm just going to copy this and then change the commission rates, which is 0.1 or 10. Okay. Now again, what does else means? Else means less than 150,000 right here. So I just have to add this part right here only. Copy and then put else as statement. See, cells amount. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this, and then commission should be 0.08. So I always use the braces to avoid any unexpected problems. We have 0.8. And then continue. Else. What does else mean? Less than 90,000. So it's already there. I just have to add the other one. Sales amount is less than, I'm sorry, higher or equal than 45,000. Okay. And then it's going to be 0.05. And finally, the last one, I'm going to put else. Else means everything else that's not mentioned. It's going to be 0.02. Else means anything less than 45,000. That's how it works, as you can see. So this is when you have like a multiple values. You have brackets. We don't have a specific value, a specific number. So we use this. Okay. So let me run the program and see. So I'm going to put here into the sales amount. So let's say I'm going to choose the second bracket, which is $145,000. So that's not the first one because the first one is higher than 200,000. So it's going to be in between. So you get 11,600, which means the tax rate is 0.1, which is this one right here, because this is less than two. I'm sorry, no, it's the third one. Because the third one is less than 150,000 and higher than 90,000. So it should be 0.08. Okay. Now, what about if we enter the smallest one? So if I put $10,000, so you get only 2%. So that's why we have 200 in there. Okay. Now, there is also another option for this. Okay. Another option. So which is I'm going to use AND. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, the same problem. I'm going to put here, if sales amount is higher or equal than 200,000. Okay, the first one is not a problem because anything higher than 200,000. Okay, okay. Then I'm going to put, yes, say out. For commission is, and then I'm going to put sales amount multiplied by 0.50. Pay attention to the second one. I'm not going to put else. That's another option. But I'm going to put two conditions, not only one. If sales amount is less than 200,000, and then look, this is ampersand. We use the shift key and number 7 at the same time. So I have to put two of them. So it means and. Let me put it right here. It means and. What's the other condition? Higher But you have to repeat the variable. You cannot just, like in math, we put in between. No. So you have to repeat if it's higher or equal than 150,000. So these two conditions, if they are true, then they will get 10%. See, that's another option in which we don't use else, but you have to put and, because you have to make sure both conditions are there. And then we're going to continue the same thing. So if it is, I'm just going to copy this. So if it is higher than what? Higher than, I think probably 90,000, yes. 90,000, but less than 150,000, and higher or equal than 90,000. Then they're gonna get, I think, 0. Okay, this one should be 10%, and this one should be 0.08. So this is, you're gonna get the same output, the same outcome, just like the else if that we had earlier. It's just using and. It's like an alternative. You have to put if statements again, like more than like 4 or 5 times. So what else? Yes, we have another one. Another one which is between 45,000 and 90,000. So I'm going to put if it is less than 90,000 and then higher or equal than 45,000. So you are going to get 0.5. And finally, and the last one, you don't have to have and, because there's only one condition, which is any number less than 45,000. Less than 45,000. So they are going to get a commission of 2%. Okay, so we're going to get the same thing. Let me try. So if I got, let's say, 160,000, that's going to be the second one. So you're going to get 6. Remember 10%? So that's 16,000 and so on. So these two, they mean the same thing. Either use else if, but when you put else if, you don't have to repeat the first condition. It's already included under else. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Let me switch, see if you have any question about the assignment. So the first one, we just had it. Look, you should have no problem. We just went over. It's pretty much the same thing, but this is about tax. We did the commission. It's pretty much the same thing. Number 2, we talked about it. We said that it is an if statement inside another if. Okay. Now here, the programming assignment 6. Also, you have a video for this. So because it covers the random number. So the program will generate a random 2-digit number, and the user will try to guess what that number is. So we have a lot of situations. If you guess it correctly, like the program said 25 and you said 25, which is very unlikely, but it's possible. So you're going to get $10,000. Now, if you get exactly the same number, but you switch the order, you didn't put 25, you put 52. So you're going to get $3,000. That's the second situation. The third situation is if you guess any digit, it doesn't matter, even if it's not the right place. For example, 25, you said 65, that's fine. Or you put 5 on the left, you put 59, that's fine. As long as you guess one digit correctly, so you get, I think, was it $100, I think, probably. And then finally, yeah, $100. And then, of course, you're going to get 0. You're not going to get anything if you did not guess anything. So that's else. Project. We talked about the first one. The first one is just simple. Prompt the user to enter first, last name, and then the diameter. So the user, they will enter the diameter. Of course, to calculate the area of a circle, you need to find what? Radius. So you need to divide the diameter by 2. and then calculate the area of the circle, because pizza has a circle shape. So everybody knows the area, right? The area is the radius times itself times 3.14. Now you need to figure out how many slices. It is already explained. You get that area and you divide it by this number, 13.524. It will give you the number of slices. You can round it if you want. All right, and then the part 2, we talked about it. It's like a menu. You can use the switch statement. You can use the FL statement, whatever works for you. So if the choice is 1, so you need to have a variable, call it choice, or and then if the choice is 1, do this. Else if choice is 2, 3. If you decide to use switch, that's fine. Make sure all the switch the choice is integer, and then switch choice. Case 1, case 2, and always make sure you end with break, just like what we did earlier. I hope this you find this video helpful and useful. If you still have other questions or other concerns, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you so much.